Hey Plant Tribe, welcome back. I feel like it's been a really long time since I've sat down and just filmed a video and chatted with you guys about something or anything. So for those of you who are new here, welcome. It is so lovely to have you. For those of you who are returning, welcome back. It is amazing to see you as always. So today we're going to be covering something that has been plaguing everyone. I get questions about it all the time, and so today I'm going to try to cover as much of that as I can, and hopefully it helps. So today we're going to talk about winter care for your indoor plants. Some of these topics that I will be discussing are a little bit debatable. Some people have different feelings, and keep in mind also that it depends on where in the world you live. I personally am in Ontario, Canada, and we get snow, we get less light, and it's just generally dark and cruddy in the winter. So depending on where you are, kind of take the information that I'm going to give you with a grain of salt, modify it as you need, and yeah, as always, if you have any questions, by all means throw them down in the description, or if you have any additional information that is something that I may have missed or something that you disagree with or agree with, go ahead and throw that in the comments as well. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so here are the topics we're going to discuss today. I will list them here. So the first thing we're going to discuss is humidity. That seems to be, humidity and light seem to be everybody's big hot topics. So we're going to go humidity, light, watering, fertilizing, repotting, air circulation, pests, and temperature. So if you want to scroll ahead and find those, then please go ahead if there's something in particular you're looking for, but that is the order in which we are going to cover everything. Actually, I think the last two are flipped. I think we're going to do temperature and then pests last. Okay, so number one. So humidity seems to be a big thing for everyone. I mean, the heat is on in your home, which tends to suck the life out of the air. So your home is dry. Depending on the heat that you have, we have gas heat here, but I know especially if you have like wood stove, like a wood burning stove, a fireplace, electric baseboard heaters tend to be the worst culprit for drying out your air in the wintertime. So there's a lot of things that we can do to kind of combat that. Some, in my personal opinion, work better than others. Some that a lot of people use, personally, I don't find work very well at all, and we'll go through some of these. So the first thing that you can do, obviously, I think is the most helpful, and the thing I definitely recommend to everyone is get yourself a humidifier. You don't have to spend a lot of money. There are some really great options on Amazon or at Walmart or wherever, and you can go and get one. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. These are the two that I use. I will put the pictures of them here. Now, the Levoit humidifier, I'm sure you've seen this before. It seems to be the standard. It is amazing. It has wonderful features. It has your dual, I don't know, you can adjust where you want the mist to point out. So it's nice because I kind of have mine placed in the middle of a group of plants. So I have one stream pointing this way and one stream pointing this way, and that really does help. And so instead of pointing all in one direction, you can kind of set it in the middle of things and can just, spread out. I do like this one also because it has the option of cool or warm, and you have different settings for warm as well. So you have, like 1, 2, 3, and 4, I believe. Don't quote me on that. So it is a really handy option. It also has a timer setting, and it has an auto shut off feature. So if you don't want it running constantly, then that, is something that you can modify. The other one that I have, I believe, is a Vicks. Posted here. Don't even remember. Isn't that sad? I don't really look at the name often. It was a cheaper option. I think it was $20 or $30 on Amazon. I will have the links to everything that I do mention down in the description of the video if those are something that you want to check out. So this one's great. It has like been an amazing little humidifier. Honestly, my humidifiers run constantly. My home is extremely dry, especially in the winter time. So I do have my humidifiers running almost 24/7. So my home stays approximately about 65 to 70. It kind of fluctuates depending, percent humidity. So this humidifier is great. You have your low and then you can turn it up to high. It doesn't have a directional spout. Let's call it a spout because I don't know what else to call it. That is the one big downfall, although I know that most humidifiers don't have that feature. It's just kind of handy with the Levoit that it does have the dual spouts. But if you're looking for a cheap option, something that really does work, it gets the job done, definitely you can look into this one, and again I will put that down below. So that is my number one recommendation. I know it does cause you to put out a little bit of extra money, but if you have put enough time and care and money into your plants, we want to do what we need to do to keep them healthy and happy throughout all seasons. So it's my recommendation. Do what you will with it. Okay, second thing that we're going to talk about is misting. I personally I'm not really on board with the whole misting thing, and the reason is if you spray water into the air, especially when it's a drier air, it almost immediately dissipates and evaporates, which isn't helping anyone. You can wet your plant, but keep in mind, if you're spraying water on your plant, you also run the risk of bacteria. There could be something in the water, there could be something left over on your sprayer. It also allows water to sit on your plant and can create bacteria from there. Also, not all plants like water on them, so you have that as well. So I don't really subscribe to the whole misting thing. Do I have misters? Yes. Do I use them occasionally? Yes, but that's usually, I think the only plant that I really mist would be my Queen Anthurium. But other than that, I don't find it works. It might bring the humidity up for 30 seconds or so, but that's pretty much all you got. So the next thing that you can do to help with the humidity in your home, and I do agree wholeheartedly with this, it's a sciencey thing. So grouping your plants together can increase the humidity. Plants transpire or sweat. We're going to use that term because I think it's just easier to understand. So by grouping your plants together, you're actually creating like a small little micro environment. So, the plants are sweating or transpiring, and the humidity from the water that they're releasing goes back into the air, and again kind of creates this little miniature environment, or like a greenhouse effect, similar as like the rainforest. So the more plants you can group together, the better, especially around this time of year where humidity is harder to come by. So some other things that you can do is place pebble trays underneath your plants. Now, I do have my Queen Anthurium on a pebble tray. Do I find it makes any difference? Not really. If I'm being honest, if it works for you, that's so amazing. Congrats. It hasn't made a whole lot of difference for me. I do have the little humidity monitors that kind of tell me the temperature and the humidity levels in my homes or around plants or whatever. And I've kind of tested it around this plant to see if that pebble tray made any difference. And to be totally honest with you, it didn't. Do I still have it under there? Yep. It can't hurt, right? The other thing that you can do is place bowls of water around the water will automatically evaporate into the air. Will it create enough to keep, the humidity about 65%? No. But will it help? Yeah, again, it can't hurt. So there's another option for you. Another option, and the last option that I'm going to mention, is keeping your plants in places in your home where the humidity is typically higher. So places like bathrooms, kitchens. Bathroom is a great spot. Now keep in mind, there's not going to be a constant humidity in the bathroom. I'm talking, when you shower, it's going to be a little higher. It'll sit in the air a little bit longer. So that may be a little bit of a help to you. Now, I don't know about you, but I know bathrooms are typically cooler rooms. I'm not sure why that is. I don't know if it's like the tub and the toilet because they're cooled enamel, or I don't know why. Anyways, also, I know a lot of bathrooms don't really have a whole lot of light. If you're one of those people that are blessed with a really well-lit bathroom, I envy you. I do not. I have a small window that is, what does it face? Like southeast. And, I mean, I don't get a whole lot of light through there at all. Maybe first thing in the morning, but that's about it. So it's not a great spot for me for plants. Now, another great option, like I said, is the kitchen. If you are a person who cooks a lot, you're boiling water, you're washing your dishes in the sink with hot water, the water from those things naturally evaporates into the air. So the kitchen tends to be a place in your home that is a little more humid in general. So that is also an option for you. Again, keep in mind the temperature and your lighting situations. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up humidity. Let's move on. Okay, so the next topic we're going to cover is lighting. I know that is one thing that we all struggle with in the winter time. The reason that we struggle with that in the winter time, again, depending on where you're located, is because I know where I live anyways. We're going to discuss kind of, like the northern hemisphere because that's where I am and that's what I'm dealing with. So in the winter months, because the earth shifts and the whole, I'm not going to get into all that, but anyways, the sun is lower in the sky, therefore it is up. So it, instead of coming kind of like up and over, so in the spring and summer, it's kind of coming down and across. So you're getting less direct light. You're getting it for a lesser amount of time. This is the sun. I don't know what that is. Sorry. Okay. So we know this. This is not new news. Winter is generally just darker. It is darker, in the early hours. The sun rises a little bit later. It sets sooner. Here, I think it gets dark around like 5 o'clock. It starts to set, which isn't ideal for houseplants. We already struggle indoors with finding good lighting, western light, southern light, and things like that. So the winter does not help that whole scenario. So what do we do about it? Well, we have to get creative. So the first way that you can get creative, I don't know, with your lighting situation, and this is going to cost you a little bit of money, but again, it's one of those things where if you have put enough time, effort, energy, money into buying these plants, you want to make sure that you're doing the best you can for them to keep them throughout the winter. So you may need to invest in grow lights. If you've been with me for a while, you know that I have quite a few grow lights. Unfortunately, this side of my house is what faces west. There's not a single window on that side of the building, which is really unfortunate. There is another house there, so even if I had a window, it probably wouldn't help me all that much. So I have a lot of different grow light options. I've experimented with, oh my gosh, gooseneck style, the panel light, like everything. Now, this all depends on your situation, where you have your plants, be it on a shelf or wherever, what room you have your plants in, what you want to look at, how you want your plants to look. I like mine looking so they're a little bit more of a display piece. Although the pink and blue lights that you see are the most efficient light for your plants, it's not very aesthetically pleasing. You know, you don't want to walk or have friends walk into your home and it looks like you have some club disco rave going on in your house, or you have some serious grow up situation going on. So personally, I like the daylight looking bulbs and lights the best. I do have some favorites. This one here is the absolute favorite that I have found so far. It works amazingly well on my plants. It is small, it is lightweight, and when I say small, I mean it's very thin. So, if you can see this shelf behind me here, so these are, my girlfriend Paula and I call these the crazy plant lady shelves because I think that like every plant person has at least one of these shelves. But these little square lights are the perfect size for these shelves. And as you can see, I'll insert some footage here and some clips of what they look like. But these are the ones that I have found work the best, especially for shelving situations. So I also do have these on my big Home Depot racks at the top of my stairs, and I'll show you those as well. So they are daylight, which is super great because then you don't have that weird, you know, rave pink and blue situation going on. And they're fairly inexpensive. I think that they range between, every now and then I can get them on a lightning deal on Amazon, and I think they drop down to like $30, which is super great for what they are and what they do. So I definitely do recommend these. I'm actually, I've got another one coming tomorrow, and I'll probably grab a couple more because I did get these 2 new shelves, which I will show you guys at some point. So I have 3 across here now, so I need to get 2 more really for each shelf. Anyways, so yes, I know I rave. I'm going on a little bit, but it's because I really do like these ones. Again, I do have the gooseneck style. I do have this one as well. It is a daylight bulb. It is a gooseneck and it has 3 arms. I really like this one as well. All of these I will have linked below. As I always do, I have all the products that I do use and actually believe in linked below. And they are set out in category style, so you can kind of go through and pick what you're looking for. Eventually I will get around to creating like an Amazon storefront, which I think will probably be a little easier, and then they'll be different. I think you can do like different shopping carts. I'm rambling. Okay, moving on. Okay, the next thing that I think a lot of people miss, and I know that in the wintertime it's not something that's right on the brain constantly, but is keeping your windows clean. You would be so surprised at how much more light comes through your window when it's clean. Now, I'm not just talking the inside, I'm talking the outside as well. Obviously, you're going to save the outside for days that are a little bit warmer, but as much as you can. Even if you can only get the inside, it's going to be better than not at all. Stuff builds up on the insides of our windows, just general, you know, gunk, dust, things like that. And when you clean your window, that brings a lot more light into your home. So, please clean your windows. It really does help. Another thing too is dusting your leaves. I clean my leaves about once a month, religiously, and the reason for that is because your plant cannot, so if there's a coating of dust on your leaves, it can't photosynthesize as well because it's not bringing enough of that light into your plant in order for it to do what it needs to do. So, even if it's just water or a dusting cloth, anything will help. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to have like, you know, all this stuff in it for that kind of purpose. Just clean your leaves off. Clean the dust off and you will notice a difference. Okay, moving along. Okay, the last thing that I'm going to mention on lighting is you may need to actually move some stuff around. Shake some stuff up, get some plants, relocate it into a spot that is better suited for the winter and the lower lighting scenarios. So, I don't know about you, but I'm one of those people who, like, I get bored with the setup of my home and I have to, like, rearrange things constantly. So that for me, rearranging the plants and stuff like that is not a crazy big deal. I did buy these two new shelves that I do have in my front window, which is a northwest facing window, and it actually does get decent light. Sadly, that is literally the only window in my home which gets any amount of decent light. The only other door window that I have is in my kitchen dining room, where I have the big patio door, but I have a dog. I need to let him in and out, you know, frequently. And so it's not really realistic for me to have any sort of plants back there. So you may need to actually start moving your plants around and get them near a window where they can, you know, live their best life and get as much light as possible. The general rule of thumb is you want your plants, if you don't have them in grow lights, to see as much sky as possible. And the more sky that your plant can see, the more light it's going to receive, the better it's going to grow, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's pretty much all I want to mention on lighting. Let's move on. Okay, so our next topic is watering. Now, watering is one of those things, and I'm going to give you my take on it. Do what you want with this information, but this is my take, and this, in my brain, makes sense. It really doesn't matter what season it is. It could be spring, fall, winter, summer, doesn't matter. If your plant needs water and it's dry, water it. I don't know what more to say, really, on that. So if your plant isn't actively growing, then it's just going to use less water. But, okay, so here's my thing. This is why I'm such a non-believer in the whole watering routine. Your plants are not on a routine. You're on a routine, not your plants. Your plants, depending on pot size, soil type, plant type, humidity, lack of humidity, temperature, season in your home, are all going to be different. You can't put your plants on a routine and expect them all to thrive. So you're going to need to spend a little time going around checking your plants and that kind of thing. If your plant needs water, water it. If it doesn't need water, don't water it. You know, to me, maybe I'm just oversimplifying it, but really that's what it all comes down to. If your plant needs water, water. If it doesn't, doesn't. Definitely when you're in the winter months and it's, you know, not typically growing season. Now, most of my plants haven't really got on board with that, and we're going to keep this hush-hush because most of my plants don't understand that it's not growing season. So, anywho, so my plants are still growing and thriving, but generally, in the winter months, a lot of plants will kind of rein back on their growth, and that's their non-growing season. So they're definitely going to consume less water. But that's not really going to differ from what you should be doing anyway, is checking to see if your plant needs water. Now, the one thing that I will mention on the watering front is because your air is generally warmer and drier because of your heat, whether it be electric or gas or whatever, the top layer of your soil is going to dry out faster than it normally would. So if you're one of those people that just kind of touch the top of the soil and go, yeah, it's dry, that's not going to work. The top of your soil might be dry because the air in the home is drier. It's got that dry heat, so it's going to dry out faster. You really need to get down and check near the roots of the plant. And, you know, this is where if you have a larger plant, you can't stick your finger down far enough to actually tell whether the roots of the plant are actually getting enough water. So this is where one of these guys comes in handy, because it will actually tell you if the roots are wet. If the roots are wet, don't water it. If the roots are dry, water it. It's honestly just that simple. Okay, I won't rant on about watering. If plants are dry, water them. Okay. Okay, the next thing that I'd like to touch on is fertilizing. Now, this is one of those things where, depending on where you read your information, where you watch your information, is going to differ slightly. Again, this is my take on it. This is what I do. This is what works for me really well, actually. So like I said, my plants haven't really clued into the fact that it is winter and it is non-growing season. I don't want to say that too loud in case they overhear. Totally joking. Okay. So if your plants are still actively growing, I honestly don't see a problem with fertilizing. Now, I will say that depends on the fertilizer that you're using. I personally use an 100% phytoplankton organic fertilizer. I don't use chemicals as a fertilizer on any of my tropical plants. This is actually the one that I use. I will actually have a video coming up about fertilizing specifically, and I will explain all the ins and outs of this. This is actually a Canadian company that I am obsessed with, and I will go into detail on that in another video. But because of the type of fertilizer it is, it's not harmful to your plants. It's 100% marine phytoplankton, not going to burn your roots. It cleans the soil. It's like a soil enhancer. It provides a crap ton of nutrients to your plant, and it works for me. If you follow me on Instagram, you've seen all of my plants. All the pictures that I post the day that I take them. So these aren't old photos that I'm showing you. These are new photos of me and my plants thriving right now. And I attribute a lot of that, probably about 85%, to this stuff. And I know I'm going on about it, but it's a company that I really do believe in. I believe in their whole, we'll go into the thing in another video, but that's the stuff that I use. I will link that in the description below because it's one of those things, you know, that I, again, really believe in. I'm just repeating myself at this point. So the whole theory that I run with as far as fertilizing in the winter goes, if your plant is still actively growing, meaning that it's pushing out at least a leaf a month, fertilize it. Give it what it needs in order to be able to continue to do that. If it stops pushing out growth, rein back, you can, if you're using a natural organic fertilizer, maybe fertilize every other watering. I actually use this every single time I water, which at this point is about once a week, generally, generally. And yeah, so that's what I use. I am still fertilizing my succulents and my cacti. Those I obviously don't water as often, so I probably fertilize them once a month when I water them once a month. I don't find that any of my cacti or succulents require water any more often than that. And, again, mine are smaller. They're in smaller pots. That could have something to do with it. Again, it's all relative, really. Yeah, so that's basically my take on fertilizer. Again, do it what you will. If you do want to try this, I highly, highly recommend it. I never recommend a product that I don't 100% believe in. Definitely not recommending a product that I haven't used myself and I found works. I mean, there's no point in recommending something if it's garbage. So I don't. Anyway, that's down in the description of the video, so feel free to check that out. The next topic that we're going to go over today is repotting. This is another one of those topics, depends on who you talk to. Again, here's my take on it. If your plant needs to be repotted, repot it. Honestly, I mean, if you don't absolutely need to, yeah, maybe you could probably wait till spring and that's fine. Repotting, as a general rule, will slow the growth of your plant down regardless. So, I mean, it stresses a plant out, yes. But if it has to be done, it has to be done regardless of what season it is anyways. So, there's that. Honestly, that's all I really have to say on repotting. If your plant really needs to be repotted, go ahead and repot it. You're not gonna, do any major harm to the plant by repotting it in the winter. I've repotted lots of plants so far this winter. Nothing's died. I'm okay. The plants are okay. We're all okay. But again, can you wait till spring? Probably. Should you? Maybe. Have I noticed any difference? Not even a little bit. So again, do with that information what you will. I don't notice a difference in the slightest between spring, summer, fall, winter, as far as repotting my plants is concerned. Moving along. Next topic. And this is one that I don't see mentioned a lot, and I really feel like it should be, not only in the winter, but, year-round, is air circulation. Obviously in the winter, we've got our windows closed because it's cold and snowy. And so that means there's not the breeze coming in, the air circulation that you normally have in the spring and summer months when your windows are wide open. There's gorgeous breeze coming through. Your plants need air circulation. I can't stress this enough, and this is one of those things that not enough people are talking about. So your plants actually consume CO2, and they do that in order to photosynthesize. So that means they need a constant supply of fresh air coming in so that they can release that and take that in and spit it, it's the whole cycle. So if they are in stagnant, especially stagnant dry air, they are most definitely not going to thrive for you. I have a ceiling fan in my dining room that is constantly going. Not at night, I do shut it off at night, but during the day, usually it is going, so it's moving the air around. If I find that maybe the ceiling fan just isn't getting enough air moving, I will pull out, I have a box fan that I'll pull out into the living room. Ideally, an oscillating fan that moves back and forth would be ideal. You never want to point a direct fan like at plants. They don't need to be blasted with it. The air needs to move around, and it needs to be able to take in the moisture in the air. And if you're pounding a plant directly with air, it's not going to be able to do that. But it does need air flow. So ideally an oscillating fan would be great, just to kind of move the air around in your home so that the plant is able to do what it needs to do, and bring in that CO2, kick out fresh air and that kind of thing. So again, that's one of those things that not a lot of people mention, but I thought I would mention it because I do think it's extremely important. Get air circulating in your home during the winter. Air sucks in the wintertime. It's stagnant. It's dry. Give your plants a hand. The next thing that we are going to talk about is temperature. So, as you know, and if you live in a climate like I do, where it's cold and frigid and disgusting in the winter, as you can tell, I'm not a fan of winter, like at all. There are drafts in your home. You open that front door. If you've got plants anywhere near that front door or in the line of where the air comes in, they're going to catch that draft. Some plants are way more sensitive to that than others. So do some research on the plants that you have. Some will really, it'll be a real detriment to the plant to get that cold draft. No plant's going to like it. Keep in mind that we have tropical plants. We're bringing them into our home in the tropics where these plants are endemic. They don't get super below freezing temperatures blasted at them at any point. And so we don't want to do that to our plants in our home. So if you've got plants near a drafty door, maybe a window that lets a lot of cold air in, move the plant away. You can move it back in the spring, make it look all pretty, but to save your plants, keep them away from any super cold drafts. At the same time, your plants, appreciate, most plants, this is just a general rule of thumb as far as temperature is concerned. If you're comfortable at, whatever temperature, I know some people, fluctuate, but generally, if you're comfortable and you can sit there, you don't have to have a blanket on, your plants will also be comfortable. They like what we like for the most part. So if it's warm enough for you just to sit and chill without putting extra socks, a hoodie, a turtleneck, a toque on, then your plants will probably be okay as well. So now along the same lines, windows, if you have plants right up at your window, because there's no, obviously, there's no insulation in your window. Like newer windows obviously will have, are double paned and are a little more able to keep the cool air out. But generally your windows will be a lot cooler than, say, your walls will. So if you have plants right up against your window, it's very likely that, especially if they're touching the window, that they are not going to fare well, and they're not going to make it for you. So if you have anything super close to the window or pressing up against the window, just do yourself a favor, do the plant a favor, pull it back a little bit. Even an inch or so will be a huge help. You don't have to like move it across the room, but definitely pull it a little bit back from that window so it's not getting that direct cold right on it. Yeah, I think that's about good on temperature. So the second to last, and I did throw an extra one in here, and I will mention that at the end, but the second to last thing that I will mention that a lot of people seem to be bothered with in the, in the winter months is pests. Now, honestly, this really isn't any different from any other time of the year. The only thing, in my personal opinion, that you may have more of a problem with in the winter is because your air is drier, that tends to attract spider mites. They like dry conditions. So if you have your humidity at a decent level, and that kind of thing, you're not going to have as much of a problem. Are you still going to run into pests? Of course you are. It's plants. If you have indoor plants, you will have pest problems at some point or another. If you don't, and if you have never had a pest issue in your home of any kind, please tell me what you're doing. Please. But it's one of those things that go hand in hand. If you have house plants, you're going to have pests at some point. So regardless of what season it is, I highly recommend, and I do this myself, is I check my plants all the time. I recommend at least once a week. I usually go around at least daily and just kind of look at my plants because I like to do that. I like to stare at them and see how they're doing and, flip leaves over, check things out. If your eyes aren't the greatest, as clearly mine are not, it would be a decent investment, and it's not even much of an investment because they're like super cheap, is just get a little magnifying glass. And because some of these pests like spider mites, thrips are extremely hard to see. Fungus gnats will fly up your nose, so you'll be pretty good on knowing if they're there or not. They like oxygen, so they tend to hover around where there's a lot of oxygen, which is, in your nose holes. It's great. So you want to be able to see those. So get a little magnifying glass. You don't have to go over the plant with a fine tooth comb. Flip the leaves over, check a couple of the leaves, especially if you see anything that, any yellowing, any spots on leaves. Those are good indicators for pests. So really, pests aren't any different in any, in the winter than they are in any other season. Keep your humidity up. Keep your plants healthy. When a plant is stressed, it tends to send out these hormonal signals of some kind, some plant kind. And it actually attracts pests. And the less stressed your plant are, the less of those signals it's going to send out, the less pests your plant will have. I don't know the whole science behind that, but I know it's a thing. So that's my take on pests. Next, I'm going to throw in a little added bonus one that I felt was good to mention. So the last thing we're going to talk about then is new plants. Bringing new plants home. whether they are being shipped to you via post or if you are going to a greenhouse or box store or whatever and bringing them home. So let's start with shipping. I know where I live, most plant shops do not ship in the winter. It gets really cold here. I'm talking like it can dip down to like minus 30, minus 35, which is not conducive to plants shipping. I would, there are some companies that I know do ship in the winter, and they will include a heat pack. Even then, if something goes wrong in the mail, the plant lasts a little longer in the mail than it ideally should be. Most of those heat packs, I think they only last for at the maximum of like 90 hours. So you're going to run into some problems. Your plant's going to freeze. Depending on how much money you paid for that plant, you could be in for a world of hurt. So in my personal recommendation, I would just err on the side of caution and not have plants shipped to you. If you live in an area like I do, in the winter, it's not worth the risk. Again, depending on how much you're paying for the plant or how badly you want that plant. You can always try to use a little restraint like I am right now, which is driving me nuts, and just wait until the spring. You will be thankful for it. You're going to save yourself some money and stress, and it's going to save the plant. So that's my take on shipping. As far as going to a nursery or a box store or whatever and buying plants, by all means, go do that. I still do that. What I will say on that is there's a couple things that you want to keep in mind. The first thing is most decent nurseries, plant shops, etc. This is definitely not including box stores. This is on you in box stores. But most nurseries will actually wrap your plant for you in plastic. They'll put it in a box for you. They'll get it, so that it's okay to travel between, the building to the car to your home and that kind of thing, and it's not going to get too cold. If your shop doesn't do that, if they're not doing that on their own, which they should, but if they don't, ask for a bag, ask for a box. Usually a bag in a box would be ideal, so that the plant has a little bit of protection from the cold. Even from, the building to the car can be enough to put the plant into shock, and depending on how cold it is, it can kill your plant. We don't want that. So the second thing that I will mention on buying plants in stores is if you buy a plant, let's say you have some running around to do, you're at Walmart or Home Depot, you stop in at a garden center, you see a plant that you really want, you're like, oh, I gotta take it home. So you throw it in your car, and you're like, oh, I forgot I have to do this as well on the way home. So you're just like, oh, the heat's been on, the heat will it'll stay warm enough in the car while I just run in and run back out. Probably not, depending on how cold it is outside. Your car cools off really quickly. If you sit in your car, have the heat blasting, no matter how high you have that heat blasting, you turn that off. Sit in the car, turn the heat off, and watch how cold it gets and how quickly. Even if you are just running in and out, even in that time, depending on the plant, depending on what you have it wrapped in, can be enough to kill the plant or severely damage the plant. It can drop all its leaves. We just don't want that. So if you are at a place where you see a plant that you want, you have some more stops to make, either don't get that plant that day or finish all your running around first and then go back for the plant, or just head straight home. So I think that's pretty much all I wanted to go over today. So if you have anything else that you would like to add, or if you disagree with me on something, by all means, go ahead and throw it down in the comments. I think I tried to cover as much as I possibly could. A lot of the questions that I got, and all that kind of stuff. So again, let me know if I missed something, or if you have something to add, that would be great. Yeah, so we're coming up on 2020 here really soon, in actually like 2 days, I think. A day? What's today? I don't even know what today is. Anyway, we're coming up on 2020 really soon. And I have some new exciting stuff for you come the new year that I am excited to share with you. So make sure you stick around for that. If you're not already subscribed, please go ahead and do that as a huge help for the channel, and I greatly appreciate it. I love talking to you guys, and I love this community that we've built, and I just want that to continue. I think it's amazing. I will stop rambling now because, you know, it's what I do. So if I don't talk to you before then, which I'm pretty sure I will, but if I don't, if you don't see me until then, have an amazing new year. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. All right, guys, have a good day, night, week, month, and new year, and I will see you in the next one. Mwah!